everybody to tonight we have a special guest. I am going to have her go ahead and do a little introduction of herself and a little bit of her background. Um, so go ahead and
Okay,
you're
awesome,
the
awesome.
floor is
So,
yours.
hi everybody. My name is Chantal. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in California, and so I've just been doing therapy since about 2020, kind of doing that. But I've been in the field of social work since 2016, so I've been kind of in the field for a bit. So I'm just here to kind of teach a little bit of skills and kind of how to survive a natural disaster with maybe some fun tidbits and different coping skills for children and for adults and everything in between. So yeah.
It's awesome. And also I want to say thank you for doing this. It's been for everybody watching, it's kind of like a mixture of All American. She has been on TikTok. Um, and anybody that has TikTok, you got to go and check out her channel on TikTok. It's really good, educational. She's excellent.
Now don't listen. I found a diamond in the rough, okay? Because a lot of my crew, man, TikTok can be rough on us. But it's a great channel. I have been through therapy for over 20 years, and she's the best. All right, go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
And so tonight we are going to just be going over different things of how to manage stress in a stressful situations, even in a man-made or natural disaster. She's got a great kind of like a almost like a lesson plan. um and so I'm just going to let her have the floor, everybody. And if you have questions, just shout it out, even if you want to put question in there first so that I can see that better. Um, and we will have her answer questions throughout. And yeah, so go ahead.
Awesome, awesome. So if you just also a quick reminder, you can find me on TikTok at Under the Window Pane. That's where my handle is. Okay, awesome. So let's get into it. So when we are thinking about natural disasters or man-made disasters, sometimes the common feelings that maybe might come up are things like panic, uncertainty, maybe anger or fear. There's also different types of feelings like feeling afraid or scarcity, maybe like you won't have enough, maybe the resources won't be enough. And also, in addition to that, there is also, people are experiencing trauma firsthand, but also experiencing trauma vicariously through other people, whether that's through the news, through stories, right? And so we are looking at trauma from all different types of angles. So what we're going to learn today is we're going to learn a little bit about how we can use these coping skills to help us deal effectively with some of these emotions and can help us maybe in an emergency. So just some cool little tidbits to add to your bug out bag or things of that sort. So let's talk a little bit about vicarious trauma. So, vicarious trauma or secondary trauma is a type of trauma that a person might experience if we are watching it happen to somebody else, right? So, if you are a first responder, if you are on the front lines of any sort, if you are, kind of witnessing this stuff even on social media or online or in the news, this is also a way that maybe we might be exposed to trauma in a way that is not always very typical, right? So when we think of trauma, we might think of it as like living through the natural disaster, right? But in addition to that, right, there is this to also look out for. Okay. So the thing about vicarious trauma is that it can look like post-traumatic stress disorder. So what post-traumatic stress disorder and vicarious trauma, what they have in common is things like hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is maybe we stop and we're kind of staring, we're looking, right? We are looking for danger in a way that is it overextends ourselves, right? There could be things like intrusive thoughts or negative thoughts that keep kind of running into our mind over and over again in a way that feels disturbing, right? Kind of like you can't put down that thought, and no matter what you do, you keep thinking about that thought. That's probably an intrusive thought, right? There's also things like emotional numbing or avoiding, right? And sleeping. These are all things that come with vicarious trauma as well as regular, right? So these are things that to be on the lookout. So not only in yourself, but also in those who are helping, right? So our first responders, our therapists, our medical staff, our journalists, our humanitarian workers, these are all people who would experience this as well. So if you have children also who maybe watch the news, they can also suffer some of this if they're watching a lot of, a lot of things that are tragic on TV or on their social media, things like that, right? So um, in addition to that initial trauma, we also want to kind of look for this one as well. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about maybe how fight, flight, freeze, and these type of circumstances and how people typically respond to trauma, right? So within our body, we have two different systems, right? It is our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system. So our parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest nervous system, right? This one helps to calm us down and keep us cool and relax us after we've had a traumatic experience or a stressful experience, right? Then there is the sympathetic nervous system. This is our fight or flight response. So in a trauma, we might be experiencing a lot of either traumatic experiences, and our fight and flight response might be enacted, or we may be experiencing kind of like a bit of a shutdown, and our parasympathetic system might come online, right? Okay. So we want to learn to balance these two things. And within our body during regular time, our body is always going to try to find homeostasis or balance, right? Okay, so these reactions also happen automatically. So it's not things that we have to think about. It's not things that we really have to like sit there and kind of like make sure that we're doing. So, for example, we don't consciously tell our heart to keep beating or for our stomach to keep digesting, right? Things kind of happen automatically. And so in our system, when we react to trauma, it's coming from a biological place that is kind of not really like something that we can always control, right? There's things that we can do to influence it, but it's not always things that we can control. So when we are having these experiences, maybe we might feel things like shame or guilt for reacting in certain ways, or maybe we might be embarrassed for how we've behaved. Now, these are totally normal responses and something to be mindful of because a lot of times we don't have a lot of control over these things, right? So let me go ahead and stop there. I know I'm talking a lot. So let me go ahead and see if you have any questions, go ahead and put those questions into the chat and I'll do my best to try to kind of educate from it. And then just a quick reminder that I am a therapist. However, I am not your therapist, right? This is not therapy. This is just skills and a little bit of psychoeducation around that, just so you kind of have that information. So if you have questions, go ahead and put those into the chat and I can go ahead and provide maybe some insight or maybe a different way of thinking about it in terms of, how to deal with natural disaster and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, right now everybody's saying hi to everybody. Yeah, it's our
We got a big community on YouTube.
yeah, this is our normal people. And so everybody sees everybody in the chat. So everybody's just saying hi to everybody.
And listening to you.
Yes. And
Any questions yet?
no questions yet. But hey, everybody watching, if you do happen to have a question, you can put, just so that we see it more better, put question and then say your question. And everybody also listening, this lady is freaking awesome that we got here right now. So and she's got a great kind of a planned out talk this evening. And so and everybody in the chat, I mean, we on our channel, we always come up with stuff like we plan for the future on either man-made or natural disasters. And
we're them crazy conspiracy theorist preppers, okay, but we're running out of conspiracy theories. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's everybody in this group. We're conspiracy theorists, we're preppers, we're homesteaders, all this kind of stuff all wrapped up. And
Big old mag team,
yep.
AMRADs, tanks, we got it all. Look on our
Yes,
YouTube channel, it's there.
And actually one of our people in the chat, she's an retired EMT. So she's seen things for sure.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So I guess they're going for.
yep. So if anybody does, if I see it first, I'll let you know if there's a question, or whatever. So
And if they're not, just continue with the curriculum.
yep.
All
Great.
right. Awesome. Okay.
Because
Awesome.
I'm learning too, by the way.
We just kind of talked a little bit about, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system and how these are just kind of reactions that we have. So what we're going to talk about now is the fight or flight response, which is predominantly under the sympathetic nervous system, right? Okay. So when we are having, a response to a trauma, our usual response is fight or flight, right? There's other responses such as the freeze and the fawn response, which we'll talk about in a little bit, right? But those are the newer type of theories and the newer type of systems. But for sure, or flight and fight, right? Okay. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the TV show The Walking Dead or
I am
Game of
Negan.
Thrones, yes, or even MASH, right? So when I am talking about things, I want you to kind of think about if there's any characters that maybe might fit with these. Maybe you're like, oh, I can see this person is having this type of response, right? And just go ahead and see if you can identify, like, oh yeah, I can see that this person is really engaging in this type of reaction. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is fight and kind of what that might look like. So fight is usually when the body is preparing to engage in battle, to engage in the threat and protect either themselves or others, or, protect whatever that needs to be protected, right? This can look like either yelling, arguing, maybe there's a bit of resistance, right? Standing your ground is also considered part of fighting, right? Even though maybe you're not engaging in it, you're still kind of using this as a way to, stand your ground, right? Okay. So this reaction is very, very useful, especially when you need to protect yourself or others. There is also, things that we can do to maybe if we are struggling with this, maybe we are too much engaged in fight, or maybe we are trying to change our ways or change our first initial reaction. If it's always to fight, maybe we want to learn to kind of scale it back a bit, right? There are things we can do to kind of improve on this coping skill or improve on this reaction, right? Which are things like tips. So we can change the temperature of our body, right? We can make sure like maybe we're splashing some cold water on our face. That will be a real big shock to the system. So for example, if you've ever been maybe at, at a pool party or something, or maybe you're on a boat somewhere and somebody pushes you off the boat, or pushes you into the pool, and you go into the water and you come up for air and you're like, right? That is your nervous system switching, right? It's going into the rest and digest type of, reaction, right? And that is one of the surest and fastest ways to change your attitude if you are having, like a crisis and maybe need to change something, right? So using temperature to change your body, right? To change your reaction is really helpful and very fast, right? We don't really recommend it on a forever type of thing, but more as an emergency,
Keep it cool.
right?
You're
Okay.
right, because I got PTSD really bad, and I gotta keep it cold. Even where I work at, everybody complains because they're like, "You have it too cold in here," and I'm like, no, I don't." But because when I get hot, that's how she controls me, is keeping that temperature down.
There you
Because
go.
when I get hot, I get mean as hell. I don't know what that is. But
Oh yeah, and it's totally, it's totally true, right? So like if you have like a freezer, get your ice packs, get your cold water, right? Put that on the back of your neck, maybe on your cheeks or your face. Very, very useful. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my husband will stick his face into the AC, so I'm like, oh, yeah, it's always good. All right. So you also want to do maybe some exercise. Make sure that you are doing maybe intense exercise. That way you can go ahead and, release some of that adrenaline, release some of that pent up energy. Okay. You also want to use maybe paced breathing, practice those relaxation breathings. slow down that breathing. Sometimes when we are, engaging in our fight response, our heart tends to go fast, right? Maybe our muscles tends to tense up. So we want to kind of bring more of that relaxation, bring more of that calm back into the body, right? So we want to use some progressive muscle relaxation where maybe we clench the body and then release and clench and release. And the way we do this is maybe doing body part by body part. And we just, slowly tense up and then slightly release. And the reason why we do this is because it teaches the body the difference between tension, fighting, right, and relaxation, or rest and digest, right? And so that helps kind of to build that connection within the body. Okay. And then that last one is that paced breathing. Okay, we talked a little bit about paced breathing, just slowing down the breath, making sure that we're, relaxing. We're not, like breathing too fast because that also speeds up the heart, speeds up the body, and makes, feel a little bit more tense. Okay. And then for fight, and we want to kind of reduce maybe that fight, is also maybe having to, use radical acceptance. So just a quick reminder, radical acceptance is not necessarily accepting or approving of a situation. It's just acknowledging that this is a reality and that this is happening. And when we are able to do this, it allows us, one, to reduce our stress. It helps us to see the problem from different perspectives. And two, it also helps us to have, it opens our energy up. So we're not so focused on maybe resisting, but instead focuses on the solution, right? And effective coping skills, right? So if we are forced to fight and maybe we don't want to fight or all this stuff, right? Or engage in maybe protection of things maybe we never thought we had to do, this kind of helps to keep our brain online as opposed to maybe reacting from a place of like immediate needs to get done, and maybe we get tunnel vision type of thing. This kind of helps to kind of we rewire that so we can have a wider view. Okay. All right. So did anybody think of any characters maybe that might fit with maybe the fight response? Did anybody kind of get anything? If not, I can always provide some examples.
We have one person that they actually even thought of another TV show, called The Colonial on the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
It had 2 seasons.
Okay, awesome. Yes. So that's really good. Awesome. Love to hear that.
Everybody tries to tell me I'm Daryl's brother on The Walking Dead. True story. And I am. I ain't gonna lie, but I'm also Negan. I understand why he is the way he is. I get it.
He is a
Few for
complex
many.
character.
I understand.
Indeed. Okay, awesome. So yes, absolutely. These are all really great examples. Negan is a good example as well. He does have some fight in him, right? So that's good too. Okay. So if we're thinking of, the zombie apocalypse movie, right? Maybe like Rick Grimes or Mahone, or maybe Arya the Hound from Game of Thrones. And if you're thinking of Ash, the character Hawkeye Pierce, he's also, he's always kind of fighting these characters, always kind of engaging in that kind of activity, right?
Yeah.
So these are kind of characters, things to look for in real life if maybe somebody might be engaging in these things, right? Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about flight, okay? So flight is usually, it's very useful when maybe we need to retreat from an activity or retreat, or, when, reacting is not really the best reaction right now, right? So we want to get out quickly. That's when flight is very effective. Now, a lot of people might, think, it's better to fight or it's better to run, right? But all of these reactions are normal and very useful, and it depends on the situation, right? That kind of helps us survive, right? So all of these are very useful, okay? So flight may carry some negative stigma to it, along with a few other ones, and so it's always just a nice reminder to kind of know, like, hey, these are normal reactions, and we need a combination of all of these in order to survive. So in an emergency or in a natural disaster, some people might have the urge to run away, right? or leave the scene, or even avoid danger, which are totally normal reactions. And, that happen, right? So, what we look for maybe within ourselves or within others, right? Maybe is a racing heart race, maybe some shallow breathing, maybe jittery energy, maybe we're constantly maybe pacing or restlessness, right? So somebody who maybe is having a little bit of difficulty settling down might be engaging in flight response.
He
Okay?
is totally about me.
You're talking about him.
I just choose to fight. I'm not running, too old, no, I'm fighting.
We even
Yeah,
had when one of the comments,
I fight. I'm not,
one of our ladies, Tambra, she put
that's my sister.
never retreat.
Yeah, I fight. Me and Tamara, we dying on this hill right here. I'm fighting. Yeah.
we need a little bit of everything, right? So that's great.
Well, that's
Okay.
just how I deal with that. That's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
gonna start trying to cool myself down to keep from knocking people out. But I work as a bouncer. I have to. But
Yeah.
I
No,
still
that's
lose my temper.
important.
I'm only human. I still get mad.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, it's important, right? We need a little bit of everything, right? In the most effective groups, right? We need our fighters, we need our runners, we need our fawners, our freezers, we need everybody, right? We are better together, right? So
I am the protector of women. Those girls are just like my children that I protect.
right.
I really don't like men all that much, but I go out of my way for women and my best friends.
Yes.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's awesome. Okay. Awesome. So if we are maybe engaging in flight, and let's say there is, we don't want to engage in flight, or we're struggling with, engaging in other coping skills, a way to maybe change, maybe, our flight response is to do grounding skills, things like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So when we're doing this is we want to kind of use our senses. So we're going to use our sight to find 5 things we can see, right? Um, 4 things maybe we can touch, right? 3 things we can hear, right? 2 things we can smell, 1 thing we can taste, right? And these, if we use our senses to kind of get a better surrounding of maybe our environment or our situation, it kind of helps to, bring down that flight, that jittery energy, and helps us to get our thinking back online and to engage in a way that we feel is more appropriate, right? Whatever that might be. Okay. So we also need to check the facts. So what happens is when we are engaging in flight, maybe we are saying to ourselves, "I'm not going to survive. This isn't going to be worth it." Or maybe our mind is racing and we're letting ourselves get kind of caught up in things. And so in a lot of the TV shows that we might see, we can see a lot of this kind of situation coming into fruition, where a lot of people maybe act impulsively and they might run away from the group, ending in their demise, right? And so this is exactly what would happen in real life as well, right? We might act a little bit impulsively, where we want to make sure that our mind is not running away with us. Okay, so make sure that
Perfect example. I have for example her, the dude that hit that tripwire I was telling you about.
Yeah.
How he panicked, ran, and anyway. He let his mind control his body and hit a tripwire. It was known to be there. And so, yeah, I understand completely what you're saying.
Yep, absolutely. Right. And so that's why we want to, yeah, exactly. Checking the facts is always really important, right? Making sure that our mind isn't running away with ourselves, right? Okay. We also
That
want
is
to
important.
movement. Yeah. So, like, again, that guy, he was running, right? But if he had taken the time to slow down, right? If he had taken the time to get his mental faculties back online, he may not have suffered as much, right? He may have avoided the whole situation, right? So, we also want to slow down. Mhm.
And he
There-
took some guys with him too, the dummy. But
There's a question in the comments. What is your thoughts on the art of Zen? Wait, hold on. Does that say Zenzu?
The
Yeah.
art of Zen and the art of war. I'm actually not too familiar with the art of Zenzu or the art of war. I'm sorry. But the word
It's
Zen.
very psychological. I recommend reading it. It's very, you're a reader, I can tell, because you're so intelligent, and intelligent people are readers. Duh. But it is what it is. Sorry for you non-readers, you're stupid. But anyway,
I'll say that.
I'm just gotta be.
Okay, go on.
So yeah, you're right. You're right. So I recommend you reading that book because that has a lot of mental stuff. And you know so much, man. Oh my goodness.
I will write that down. Zenzu. I got it right here. Okay, awesome. So I've got that written down. I'll put that on my reading list. Okay, awesome. So yes. So what I do know about Zen, right? And that whole meditative practice, yes, if you don't have a meditative practice, right? It can limit you in certain ways, right? So meditation and in terms of like kind of being more aware of your thoughts is a very helpful practice. And so if the book talks about kind of being more aware of your thoughts and being more aware of like your behaviors and your actions, it's absolutely important. And considering war, behavior and actions and being aware of maybe your fears and the limitations that a person may have are very important to be aware of, right? Especially in terms of like natural disasters, right? We may have the tendency to be afraid and to run away, or we may have the tendency to be overly brave and put ourselves in very risky situations that are probably a bad idea, right? So, super. Okay. So, okay, so talking a little bit about flight, right? So slowing down, being mindful, again, using our breathing techniques. So this is also kind of a good example as well, right? So breathing techniques also helps to reduce the heart rate, reduce the internal jitteriness or the regular jitteriness, right? So there's different techniques that we can use. Draw a box with our finger like this in the air, right? And as we are drawing that box, we're also counting to 4 for each side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can go as fast or as slow as you want, right? And as you are counting and drawing, right, that box, you're also breathing. So breathe in and then out. And then out. Okay. And that's how you're doing it, right? The reason why this works is because you want to overwhelm the mind. Oftentimes, when we are engaging in restlessness or flight, or we have these intrusive thoughts, our mind is racing, 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 and we can't get it to stop or slow down. This helps to overwhelm the mind and overwhelm what's happening, right? To help us slow, right?
Never enough.
So, questions, comments?
And that's true too, because yeah, the breathe and I've been doing that with my therapist, but she never told me why I was doing it. That's why you're so good. I've been doing it for 20 years, but I never knew why. And she just had me do it, and I did it and all, but now I know why. That's important. It's kind of stupid doing something you don't know why you're doing it, but now I know.
Right. There you go. Yeah, sometimes we just need a little bit of psychoeducation to kind of like understand and like for it to kind of make sense, Like some of the stuff might feel very simple or like, oh yeah, this is so basic, right? But it's putting it into practice, right? Hearing it out and listening to like why it's important, right? That can make a difference, right? I mean, think about it. If we're jittery and we're shaking, right? We're going to need to be able to hold, whatever it is, our weapons or whatever steady, right? What is the first thing we're going to do, right? We're going to breathe, right? Slow down, right? Slow down that breath. Be able to be center with ourselves, right? And this is the same concept, right? We're just applying it maybe in a more grander, different type of way, right? So yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Questions? Anything?
I know we just even had somebody else put in he's a martial artist and he said we practice breathing exercise in martial arts that helps relax the mind
Who's the X?
X, yeah.
XNYC is in the house. And you got TikTok. Subscribe, follow this girl on YouTube. And
On TikTok.
but at the end of this live, she's gonna have her YouTube channel and her own channel. Anyway, I got you.
They'll get there. They'll get there. Okay. Awesome.
So
All right.
next time we're gonna be giving y'all her YouTube channel.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be next. I'll be putting that up eventually. Yeah, soon. I'll figure it
Two
out.
birds, one stone.
There you go. Okay, awesome. So a character that maybe might embody maybe somebody who might be in active flight, right, is Eugene Porter. He was the genius guy who was like always creating things on The Walking Dead, right? He was always kind of trying to run away from a fight. He was always kind of like, I don't want to really do this, right? Another one from maybe Game of Thrones is Samuel Sweeney or Sansa Stark at the very beginning. And then from MASH, we have maybe Father McConaughey or Radar O'Reilly. So these are all characters that maybe engage more of the flight type of reactions. Okay, so they might benefit from some grounding techniques. Okay, all right. So going into freeze, when we are dealing with a natural disaster, some of us, and we might even notice people who freeze or they have a tendency to stop moving or kind of like stop in shock, right? This is totally a normal reaction, and it might look like maybe becoming tense. Maybe we have increased feelings of numbness or dissociation. So kind of feeling like we're having like an out of body experience. Okay. We might also maybe feel a little bit stuck, slow breathing, or muscles locking in or feeling stiff. Okay. So this is kind of what freeze might look like. In nature, we also might see freeze in the animal kingdom in possums, right? So they have this tendency to always kind of, play dead, right? Or they're engaging in freezing, right? So if we have the tendency to do this, just know that it's a normal and totally normal reaction to have, okay? All right, so the body has a tendency to shut down, and it's very helpful when maybe running or fighting are both not options, right? So let's say, again, maybe we're a small possum and we're dealing with a bear on one side and we're dealing with a human on the other, right? It's not a very good idea to run in either direction because as a possum, we're not going to be able to defend against a bear or a human, right? So maybe playing dead is the best option, right? So this is kind of what we might see it in nature, okay? All right, so it's useful when maybe we're trying to play dead or trying to kind of do, like, not bring too much attention to ourselves, okay? So when we are trying to come out of a freeze state or come out and, change your reaction from a freeze state to maybe a more active or a different type of reaction, right? We want to start with using small movements, right? So if we're feeling tense, right, just loosening it up, right? Loosening up the body, being able to relax the hands, relax the arms, relax a little bit, being able to, bring, let go of tension in the body and kind of bring that relaxation, right? We also want to do some positive self-talk. Often with, things like freeze, we might have negative association with why did I do that? I'm so dumb. I put myself in a dangerous situation, or I'm too small to do this, or maybe I'm not strong enough, or I'm not brave enough, right? So we want to change those to be more positive, maybe along the lines of, I can do hard things, or maybe it's hard right now, but I can still make it through. Okay. So if we have even small children or, people who are disabled, right, and we're taking care of them, they might be having or struggling with these experiences as well. And so modeling positive self-talk and encouragement helps them to regain control of themselves, right? And regain kind of the ability to engage in maybe moving or running or whatever is being called, right? Okay, so we also want to use behavioral activation. So again, if we're kind of spiraling out of control and maybe we have too much anxiety or we're freezing up or things of this nature, we want to take the time to take a step back, check those thoughts, check those feelings, check what's happening with our bodies emotionally and physically, and really try to see if there's something we can do that's small, even if it's just something tiny. Like if all I can do right now is release my fist and relax my shoulders, then that's a good step and a positive step in the direction that we want to see, right? Okay, so I'll pause there. So does anybody maybe have any questions, or is there maybe any characters that you may like know, or any other animals that maybe have, a phrase type of response? Maybe that might be helpful too.
But yeah,
Go says
Goat, long time subscriber, real cool guy.
he says, and speaking of wildlife animals, be the honey badger. And yes, I think the honey badger is all American spirit animal.
I can get pretty rough, man. I fight for money. I don't care how young they are. You put the bread on the table, and I'll throw down whoever still can get it, can get it.
There
And
you
then
go.
we have another one, our other subscriber, XMYC, he says, run through dangerous scenarios through your mind. Every once in a while,
Let's get the cards. Some of the cards.
yeah, let me read this. Walk in the dark, go up on heights. Everything that might scare you, do it before it really happens.
Yes.
You know, that's amazing because I saw a video of Ukrainians, and they're literally, and I'm not laughing about that. I'm just laughing about, wow, they're literally videoing these projectiles going through the sky. And they're like, come on, kids, get in the car. You got to go to school. I got to go to work. It's normalized to them. It's so savage over there, man. But we've gotten soft as American culture. We got to normalize things. It just is not, we don't, you got to accept it because look at the price of groceries. We all see things. It's just not looking good, man. And that's where my community, our community, we're preppers. We're ready for things to go down and pop off. You really want to get with a prepper when something pops off. Matter of fact, you and your husband are more than welcome. Come stay with me and my wife. We got you. And we're going to have Tamara here too. We may be in Florida, maybe in Texas. You don't know where we're going to be. Well, they don't, but you will. And we just ready, That's why we chambered AMRADs and tanks, and I mean real tanks and real. That's all on the channel, YouTube channel.
I hear ya. Well, I do have my little prepper books. I have my little safety guides and my backpack and my sprays and my gas mask. So
Water. Water's the number one.
Right. It's important, right, to prepare ahead of time, right? And sometimes, especially in today's world, it can be increasingly unsteady and sometimes fear-inducing, right? So being prepared and coping ahead is always very good strategies, right? Like you said earlier, right? It's better to have a can of beans and not need them than to need the can of beans, right, and not have them.
Yeah.
And to know how you already have a plan when something does go sideways. That's what working. See, I use my, and I have it bad, man. I could go, we'll talk in person, okay? But dude, I mean, it's so bad. I ain't letting my subscribers know all this, but she knows. But anyway, but you're really good, man. I mean, out of I've seen so many therapists. She knows. And I think therapists are more valuable than a psychologist. I honestly do, because the pills don't seem to help. I just them jokers got me addicted to a certain pill that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So gotta be careful with them things. Psychologists, go and see a counselor is what I just recommend. I see one every month. Even All American Prepper Badass getting occasion by King Kong sees a therapist every month.
Right.
And I'm on your channel every day. You're on there.
Yeah, that's right. I do. I have my little live show. So if you have questions about anything mental health related, I can always provide skills or some psychoeducation regarding it. So
you've helped us out a lot just by listening to you, what you're saying.
Yeah. And then also we have another person put in, Some kids watch war games so much that it doesn't bother them anymore. Blood and trauma will not bother them just from war games on TV.
Yeah,
And
it's the desensitization of our youth. Yeah.
And see, that's a warning sign, man. Violence is being normalized. Oh, that's another. I'm that guy that carries. I'm the red flag guy, man. Red flag. That's a red flag. You know, they making all these war. That's a red flag, man. They teaching these kids, and I ain't gonna go too deep in Ukraine, Russia, man. That's people with $30 drones doing some havoc and $100,000 projectiles to take the $30 drones down. I mean, it's really becoming over money at this point. They need to stop the violence.
And also, you hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
These are all very
I
important.
hate violence, but it doesn't mean I'm not good at it. I just don't like having to be that way.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know we need a little bit of everything, right? We're better balanced when we have a little bit of everything.
You know, a dangerous man. A man that is nice and kind. If he's not dangerous, then he's not a good man in my opinion. You know, man needs to be able to defend himself and his company. And if he's not dangerous, but with restraint, you know, like for instance, there's situations as a bouncer, I know I could train wreck this guy, but I'm just sitting there taking the verbal abuse because I know if I get up, he's going to get train wrecked. And I have learned what my mama tried to teach me for years. You know, it takes a bigger man not to fight. Well, damn, I understand that now. I believe that.
Yeah, it really does.
But
Yep.
it's my nature to fight though, because I got PTSD, man. I had anxiety, and I just fight or flight every time I leave the house. What happens?
You're not fighting somebody.
I end up coming up all banged up.
Yikes. Yeah. See, okay,
Sometimes it's my friends.
to go the other way, right? So
Oh, I always win, so I make it home. But
there
a
you
lot of
go.
times it's my friends. Oh, I'm sorry. You're the belle of the ball tonight, girl. You keep going.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so maybe some characters that might look like they're engaging in freeze are people like Morgan Jones. So he was the guy with the stick, you know, he was that guy, right? He was stuck in like must clear, right? So he was stuck, right? So he was engaged in freeze for a long time. Other characters, maybe like Theon Greyjoy or Reek from Game of Thrones, or Frank Burns or Major Charles Winchester from MASH, right? So these are all characters who kind of, you know, engage in freeze type of situations. Okay, and then lastly, we'll talk about fawn and fight, fawn or feign, right? Or like fate, right? So there's some issues with this because they're maybe like they're a little bit gendered in this case, but men and women can both demonstrate these types of characteristics. So basically, what fawn is using artful intention to get the other person or the threat to be more appealing, or take pity, or to kind of like protect them a little bit more, or not be so harsh with them, right? So this can look like people pleasing, maybe agreeing too quickly, over apologizing, or putting others down in order to avoid conflict, right? So body signs can look like maybe you're over apologizing, maybe you're anxious smiling, or a more submissive type of position, right? So this is kind of what fawn might look like, okay? So this can be useful if, for example, you're in a situation where maybe you can't run away from something or a threat, or you know, the threat is maybe unpredictable or too powerful, right? So we'll see this in maybe like domestic violence type of situation. So we'll see the fawn kind of come out there. But men also have this experience as well, right? So if you look at characters like Carol, so Carol from Game of Thrones, or Carol from The Walking Dead, she was a little fawn, right? But as she develops in her character, she becomes to become more feigned, right? Which is where she takes more intention, where she kind of plays like this, like, oh, I'm just like a weak grandmother. And then before you know it, she's like stabbing you, right? Okay, this is what she's doing, right? She's playing the part in order to kind of gain the upper hand, right? Okay, other characters, maybe like Tyrone Lannister or Varys from Thrones, and then Killinger from MASH. So what he would do is he would kind of play the jokester, right, in order to kind of get the military to say like, oh, you're not, you're just kind of like too goofy, and to like let him go home type of thing, right? So he's playing the part in order to get what he needs, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what it might look like in real life or in characters, right? Okay. So this can be useful, right? Again, when we're trying to avoid danger, or if the threat is unpredictable, or we can't really control or have little power over it, right? So when we're trying to kind of get out of this response, we want to set boundaries. So we want to be able to say no without feeling guilty, and to be able to maintain our own self-respect. So to be fair to ourselves, to not have kind of over apologize, maybe to stick to our morals and to stick to our values. And then also to be truthful, not only to say the truth within ourselves and what we believe, but also, be fair and truthful with the other person as well, right? So we want to set clear boundaries when we're trying to kind of, get out of the fawn or feign response. Okay, so I'll pause there. Is there questions, comments, concerns?
One of our people, XNYC, he said the deception of weakness can be your greatest weapon if you know how to use it.
He's the man, and he teaches how to fight with a cane. So, the old guy, it's nothing to see a guy my age walking around with a cane. But if you watch it, he'll show you how to train wreck somebody with a cane.
Oh
Fact.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Because he's
Right.
literally a martial artist. He's a cane martial artist also. I've seen his
That is
master, but he's the
right.
real deal.
And how empowering is it to maybe need a walking ability, right? A walking, stick, and then be able to use that as a form of protection, right? To use fawn and fight in order to kind of try to, escape a danger, or, have, use that to your advantage, right? How incredible and how skillful that is to be able to use those, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So, dealing with grief. So, in natural disasters and when things maybe are progressing, there again is trauma and things happening in life, and people are going to be traumatized, and they're going to be losing things, and they're going to be losing, a lot of things: home, community, family members, pets, right? Items, everything. They're going to lose things, right? And so grief is going to be a major part of any natural disaster, right? So not only is it grief, but it's also trauma. And so these two things can be complicated, but they can be navigated, right? So it can look like sadness. It can look like maybe survivor's guilt. Why did I survive? And why did everybody else die? Why did I make it out? And how did everybody else not get there? Right? It can look like exhaustion, right? And these are things that we see in all sorts of different communities, right? Whether it's our veteran communities, our communities where, there's been natural disasters, right? All of these, experiences are, across the board, right? And in addition to that, right, there can be a lot of self-judgment about these things, right? So it's important to know that it's normal to feel a lot of different emotions. It's normal to have this type of response, and it's normal to, feel grief and trauma, and that it's complicated, right? So it's also normal to kind of understand that the body is going through stressors, that taking time to rest and taking time to relax is super important, because that's not weakness. It's our body's natural reaction to stress and trauma. And so if we need to rest, if we need to sleep, it's not a weakness to do that, right? It's actually going to help us in the long term and help keep us stable so that we can continue showing up day after day after day, right? So if if you've been shoveling buckets of water, right? And it's been 3 days and you haven't taken a rest, that's going to wear on you a lot more than if you shovel buckets of water and you alternate with somebody, take a rest, right? And then come back to shovel buckets of water, right? Our mind and our body are working in exactly the same way. So we need to use our same first aid kit for our mind as well. Okay. All right. So in this situation, we also want to, one, make sure that we're using our grounding techniques. So breathing, doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, using our senses, using different types of ways to stay grounded within ourselves. That way we can continue to show up, right? And that we are presenting in a calm way because people will co-regulate, right? So if they say their leader's panicking, they're going to panic, right? The more people they say panicking, the more that the other people will start panicking, right?
It's
So the more
contagious.
we can stay calm, the more we can, keep everybody level.
Yeah,
So
fear is contagious, man. Panic is contagious. I've seen it, you know. So it is contagious. It's like a contagious disease. So if that little devil jumps on your shoulder, don't show it to the whole crew, because next thing you know, the whole crew's gonna be nervous, and that can end very badly for everyone.
absolutely, right? You could be prepared, to high heavens, but if you let your emotions and your fear get the best of you, all the food and all the weapons won't mean a thing if you end up, kind of
Yeah.
squandering, right?
I've seen guys that I thought they actually look like Rambo freeze up in a bad situation. And I saw guys that look like Pee Wee Herman that freaking threw down like a ninja in a bad situation. Especially since when they came out with MMA. But I'm just saying, you really can't look at someone and know how they're going to respond. And people can think they know how they're going to respond, but until they're in that situation, they truly don't know. That's
Absolutely.
another reason I work in the security industry. I've had air mail, body piercings, if you know what I mean, trying to keep it, these, it's weird how you can say the same thing, different words on these platforms. I digress. But so I've been in there, but your PTSD, you really on point with that. You have just listening. Now I understand. I'm getting so much benefit from my counselor because I understand now what the hell she's trying to do.
Right, right. Yeah. Psychoeducation is really important, right? And like the
This is
more
helping the
skills,
mag team. This I didn't mean to. There's a lag here. That's why it goes over like that on my end. But so I apologize for that. But this is very important when you have a mag team, because I got a bunch of guys, and women.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a mandatory. Most of them going to watch this, catch it on rewatch. People got jobs down here, but
absolutely, right? And I think that goes back to kind of what, we're talking about, right? It's like we need a space to be able to express our feelings and our emotions. Because if we don't, they're going to get the best of us, right? So if we're journaling, maybe we're doing art, maybe a prayer or meditation, contemplative meditation, whatever kind of coping skills work, right? Even rituals around grief, right? So again, with our veteran community, we see our rituals around grief, right? Or we have Veterans Day, right? We have like honor days of soldiers, right? These days help, the community grieve together for these grand losses, right? And so when there is a natural disaster, absolutely, right? We want to create these rituals, right? Like, oh, this is, the day of the Great Flood, right? We want to honor the people who sacrificed themselves, who were, our loved ones who didn't make it, right? These allow for, the community to grieve and to move past, those types of situations, right? So again, naming that loss, naming what was hurt, naming what you've lost helps to take away that power and that grief and that pain that comes with it, right? So if we spend our whole lives never talking about, how we lost our home or how we lost, grandma, grandpa, how we lost, brother, sister, it's going to have a bigger weight than if we were to able to say, like, what? I lost my son. I lost my grandmother. I lost my home. I lost my life savings, right? this helps to establish like a place and a safe place to have these open and honest conversations, right? Because at the end of the day, community and connectedness is what's going to get us through, right? Again, we need a nice little mixture of different types of peoples and reactions in order to overcome natural disasters, right? We need the people to say, hold on, hold your horses, because they're in fight, right? The other people are trying to fight when they should be running, right? And we have our fighters who are going to hold back our runners and be like, we're not running, we're staying, right? So we need a good balance of all these people, right? Okay. Then there's also things where maybe grief is coming into action, and we're having things like, Victor, where we're trying to create meaning, right? So when natural disasters happen and grief is kind of running rampant, right? We want to try to have a deeper understanding of grief and of these natural disasters because it can be difficult, right? Because inherently sometimes floods happen and there's no reason or rhyme as to why they might be happening, right? But if we attach a meaning to it, right? This happened to make me a better person. This happened to teach me the art of patience. This happened to teach me to better prepare. This happened to whatever, right? This can help to create meaning. Now, there's three different ways that we can create meaning. We can create meaning through creative values. So, what we would like to give to the world, right? So, this happened so that I can be a better advisor, a better teacher to guide others through something like this, right? It can be maybe an experiential type of value, right? So things that we take in, this happened to make me a better person. This happened because, you know, it has created more beauty in my life because this has happened, right? So we have grown from it, right? And then lastly, the attitude piece, right, is what we make of it, right? This happened to help me be more courageous. This happened to facilitate, to create more dignity, more courage, humor, compassion, right? These help to develop me as a human being, right? So there's different ways that we can create meaning from natural disasters. So if you're struggling to create meaning, maybe taking a different perspective is also helpful because when we're sitting in grief, it can be very, very painful, especially if maybe we're stuck in that freeze and we're stuck in that grief, right? And we don't know what to do with it. Again, looking at Morgan Jones with his stick, he was stuck clearing because he couldn't make sense of the world. He couldn't make sense of the meaning. He couldn't make sense of the loss of his family, right? It was when he started to take action, when he started to create meaning, when he got his stick and learned to kind of defend himself and ironically talk to a mental health therapist, that he learned to deal with that freeze. He learned to deal with the grief and move past it, right? So in natural disasters, we're going to see a lot of grief. We're going to see a lot of loss, right? And so this is kind of a way that we can begin to move past these freeze states, fawn, fight, flight type of stages. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and I can see that because I didn't mean to interrupt, but I lost my mom, and wow, she can tell you the grief I've been going through over that.
Oh yeah.
I'm my only kid, mama's boy. My stepdad was a jerk, so I didn't get to say a proper goodbye. So that grief, man, that's a mean one. That's a mean one.
yeah, yeah, and the thing about grief, it's not linear, right? So some days will be easier, some days will be harder, right? And until we can integrate, right, integrate the loss into our lives, right? And it's a journey, right? It's learning to live without them, learning to live and create a relationship with them now that they're no longer here, right? We can still have a relationship, we can still say goodbye, we can still grieve, right? We can still have that emotional connection with them, even if it looks differently than what we are used to, right?
Oh, strange story. I don't want to interrupt, so hold your spot there, but I'm gonna bring this up. Yeah, I was watching your live the other day, and you was talking about like go to a graveyard or something and talk to. You were talking about no, not a graveyard. You're talking about just talk, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get the answer. Well, my therapist told me this was years ago. Go to a graveyard, talk to a gravestone, and the answer you get back is really your answer. You know, basically exactly what you was saying on your live the other day. But what blew my mind was 20, 15 years later, the headstone I was talking to was her aunt's.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually was going to the grave yard that my aunt was buried at. And I even said where she was buried at. And she's like, oh my goodness, I was talking to your aunt's headstone.
Wow.
I mean, and I went there with her grandparents when they were alive, and that was the one. It was, wow, life's a trip, man.
Wow.
So,
Right? That has to be in the universe, right? You guys were always meant to be together at that point.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
this is crazy, man. You know, and I'll talk about somebody I ain't seen in years. Next day, there they are.
Yeah.
Weird.
Amazing.
Some people call it clairvoyant. You know, I've had other religious people say, Brother Mathers, you see through the veil. I don't know anybody else can do that. But I just think I'm just this like I know a train wreck when I see one. You know, if you got two trains on the same track headed toward each other, something bad gonna happen. So, I don't know. Maybe I could just see something bad's gonna happen before other people do. I don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes that comes with good preparedness, right? When we're able
That's
to
why I
see
prepare
pattern
because the
recognition.
hard times is already here. Look at the price of groceries, just vegetables, and it's going to go up. I recommend you grow a garden, by the way.
She actually has a little garden growing.
Oh yeah, so she checks stuff out. So cool.
Well, she's filming.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do have my little hydroponic garden for my apartment, so we're okay.
Huh.
Yes.
Well, no comment on hydroponic gardening.
It's okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So our last piece, right? So what I want to talk about is children, right? How do we help our children kind of navigate the natural disaster, right? So when we are thinking about children, so children do something called co-regulation. What co-regulation is they kind of see their adults, they see their role models, and they kind of use that as an indication of how they should be behaving as well, right? They also use their guardians or their people in their lives as how to gauge a situation. So if they see you panicked, they will also panic, right? So again, they're looking at you as a leader, as a guidance, right? So it's important to maintain calm, okay? So things that we can use with children. So like of all ages, the older kids can use the adult type of skills that we talked about earlier, but the younger kids, we might want to, play little games with them. So there's things that we can do like smell the flower and then blow out the candle to help get them to breathe, right? We can also do things like stretches, right? We can get, shake the little panic out, shake the little wiggles out, right? This kind of helps get them out of the freeze action, okay? It kind of gets them moving. We also want to be careful that we're not promising false things to them, right? So we want to be honest, but in an age appropriate way. So when things happen, so yes, there is a storm outside. Yes, it is scary, but our home is helping us stay safe, right? Yes, there is a lot of scary things happening outside. However, we're staying safe together, right? These are things and simple phrases that we can say that are true without kind of giving them false narratives or false, hope or making promises that we can't actually keep or guarantee, right? So it's things like that. We also want to use gentle direction. So not necessarily like, go do this, right? But here's a flashlight, hold on to this, right? So we also want to kind of give them little tasks, things that are age appropriate, like holding the flashlight, counting supplies, things like that. That helps them also to take accountability, to feel a sense of connection, to build community, to feel like they're actually being supportive and stuff like that, right? So these little things also kind of help to make them feel more empowered as well. Okay, so again, kind of getting them from, a feeling of being helpless or like they can't do anything to giving them an action and something that they can do to help the community as well, right? And the community can be like the family or the community at large, whatever that might be, right? Okay, so also using gentle distraction. So playing little games like I Spy. So find 5 things that you can see, find 5 red things, find 3 things that you can, that you can touch, find 5 fuzzy things, whatever it is, right? These are kind of sneaky ways to get them to use their 5 senses, the 5 things that we learned earlier, and kind of make it into a little game, right? This kind of helps to keep them preoccupied and gets them to thinking about their coping skills in a way that is maybe more fun for them. Okay. And if you have time, there's always really good things. I would use this with the kids that I would provide grief counseling and different types of therapy with, but I would use books. So there's all sorts of therapy books. So if your kid is really struggling with maybe, storms or rain or floods or things like that, and they're really afraid, there's really good therapy books out there made specifically for children that you can read to them at bedtime, right? And get them to kind of start thinking and coping through these things before the actual event, right? This kind of helps to get them prepared in a way that is healthy for the child and that allows them to kind of ask questions when they're not panicked and it's not a time of panic, right? So again, we see kind of coping ahead. Again, lastly, it's okay to kind of validate these feelings of fear and stuff like that. Now, for our older kids, our preteens, this can look a little bit different. Being embarrassed and community and what their friends think of them begin to be more of an impact at around age 11 to like 13-ish, right? So they kind of want to phrase these skills as being more cool as opposed to more childlike, right? So kind of, having it be more private. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's like a breathing app or a meditation app, things that they can use on their own terms, right? And then our teenagers, they can use these same skills as the adults as well. So things to think about. So that is all the information I have, but I wanted to stop and pause there. I know we're kind of at 1 minute and 6 seconds, or 1 minute or 1 hour and 6 minutes. So I know it's kind of long, but this was about an hour. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys.
It was very helpful.
And also I've been seeing this one reel when you were saying about for kids to like smell a flower. Is I've even seen where this little reel on Facebook where if you don't smoke cigarettes but you had a hard day at work and they have a thing of bubbles and they get the stick of bubbles and blowing out the bubbles because they don't smoke. It's like just to let that out when you've had a hard day, even at work, you blow bubbles and
Absolutely, yeah. It's a
when you
really good technique for adults and for children, and that's actually a really good one too, right? It's like have in your emergency kits, right? Have some bubbles for those kids, right? Practice bubbles here, 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 right? You're getting them to cope. So absolutely, right? So if you don't have bubbles in
I
your
could
to-go bag, it's good.
yeah, I could even see adults doing the bubble thing too. I mean, because I don't know, maybe I'm a kid at heart, but I mean, just bubbles, they're fun.
Yeah,
And
You're a kid at heart.
yes. But yes,
And I'm a mean old fart, but it works.
absolutely, totally does, right? And like these coping skills, there's no real age limit to them, right? Anybody can use any of these coping skills. It's just what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel happy, right? So if blowing bubbles makes you feel happy and you're an adult, all right, cool, more power to you. I love bubbles too, And if thinking of breathing techniques, is easier doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or the boxing breathing, cool, go for it, right? There's no age limits. Like there's no age limits to being healthy, right?
yeah,
Well, she took away mine because I used to throw knives and stick them into the wall, but she didn't like that.
no.
But that's what I did, though. I mean, I would sit and just throw knives at the wall, when I was aggravated, and it just helped.
I'll get you a dartboard.
There you go. See, that's an effective reframe, right? That's a really effective reframe. So instead of
Yeah,
not,
maybe a good idea.
Yeah.
Because she said, promise me the next place we get, you won't throw knives in the walls. Because that's what I do when I'm making this trip. Because I'm a pretty good knife thrower.
oh, fantastic. There you go. It's good skills.
Yeah.
Oh, Holly's in here.
Yeah. One of our people's, Holly, said it's fun teaching kids survival skills.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, especially making things into a game even as well with them.
She's great with kids, man.
Like even I know we're doing a lot of today we're doing a lot of more how to manage the stress and the grief and all this with disasters and all. But um on the teaching kids different survival things is you make it into a game. And even like I know All American was telling you even before about foraging for different wild edibles and all, making it a game. Once you have the kid know exactly what they're looking for, and especially if you have a couple kids, all right, who can find this first, or how many of this can you find, um who can find 5 of them at one time, and something like that.
Right.
And
First one. Yeah.
in a bad situation, foraging is going to be the key.
That's true.
And honestly, this vegetables and fruits you're buying in the grocery store, only you don't know what's been done to it, and pesticides, and the land that it's grown on is burnt out of nutrients because it's been farmland for years. That's why they're not getting the nutrients, they're still hungry. That's where so many heavy people now. But these wild edibles, most of them have at least 7 times more nutrition than anything you'll buy. And they literally grow everywhere. And people just think they're weeds. But caution. All weeds are edible one time. You eat the wrong weed, it'll be your last time. So really, you need to be trained by somebody like me, because I've been doing it my whole life. Actually, my ex-mother-in-law is the one that got me started and that taught me how to do
Foraging.
that. Foraging for food.
Wow.
Where she's like, you don't have to hurt no animals. You don't have, all you gotta do, you ain't gotta burn no calories. You just pick this plant. And she showed me how to do it. And man, and it's some good food. It's just my go-to for survival is foraging, because I can just forage anywhere down here in Florida because we don't have a true winter. So it's always green stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super important, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
all types of skincare.
But this was awesome. I really did enjoy it. I liked the learning things even that I liked the box counting and breathing one. I like
Yeah,
that. And it get like you said, it gives you a little bit of things, not just the breathing, not just the counting, but you're doing something also.
mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like trying to get your mind out of what's going on, what you're thinking, and all like that. You're breathing and you're trying to do your square.
And this is helping her deal with my PTSD. She's learning a lot. So it's a big help. You're a great help. I know you're not my psychologist, any of that. Just you just now I know the whys, the whys. I don't know why other psychologists don't, I mean not psychologists, I don't know why other therapists don't do that. I've never been explained the why. I've done the breathing techniques, but I only do it when she has me do it because I don't know why. Now I know why. Now I know when I'm starting to get really, because man, I had a day today. I'd have had my head in the freezer all day today. I would have been looked like Mr. Frozen on Batman right now. I've had such a day, but
Oh man.
at
Well,
least I know.
I'm glad that you were able to kind of cope through that and have some of those.
Well, it was a lot of words, but
Awesome, awesome. All right.
but
Well,
yeah.
it was my pleasure to be able to, provide maybe a little bit of insight into kind of how to manage maybe some emotions during, you know, natural disasters, and hopefully that was helpful for you guys or for your people. And so, yeah, I guess.
Of course it was. And when we go in the live, don't forget, you can find her on TikTok, because a lot of people do got TikTok, under the window pane, right?
Right,
Great
right.
channel. I challenge you to over gift me on her channel. Man up. And so it's a great channel. I mean, dude. And I know therapists have good hearts or they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I've been in therapy for years. I know, I'm very good at reading people. I literally do it for a living, working as a bouncer. So.
Well,
But-
thank you for the opportunity. It's, it's always an honor and a privilege to be of service wherever possible. So, thank you. So,
Okay, all right, we're going to end the live, but I want to hang on just for 1 second, okay? But we'll go ahead and end the live.
All right, thank you everybody for joining in. Hope hopefully y'all learned as much as we did. And yes, like All American did say, you can see her on TikTok under the window panel, and
Window pane.
I'm sorry, and
And hopefully on YouTube soon.
yes. So everybody, and we will see everybody later on a different live, or we'll just see y'all in videos. So have a blessed evening, and we'll catch y'all later.
Stay dangerous. And we got 3 lives in here. So.
And